Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for another episode of 911 Delta Tethered for Life. This podcast may not be suitable to all listeners due to language and subject matters. Please listen with care.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another super fantastic episode of 911 Delta Tethered for Life podcast. We're your host,
I'm Anna,
and I'm Casey.
and
It's been that long of a week, I guess.
Do you remember your name?
Do you remember?
So I that's funny because I am one of those people that like songs come to me like that too. And Levi really likes music. Like he's so funny. And so he'll say something and I'll start singing a song. And the other day he's like, "Mom, is that a real song too?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can play it for you." And he's like, "How do you know all these songs?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm old. That's how."
I'm old
I've been
as
around a long time.
Oh,
Oh
my
God.
gosh. So, how was your week?
It was good. It was good. The kids are well. That's been a big bonus. And we have a
Yes,
little run of sickness there. And then,
finally.
yeah, I know. And then Saturday, of course, it was Veterans Day. So they had Grandpa came to school on Friday and hung out,
Oh,
had a little breakfast with them. They enjoyed that. And then Saturday, we spent at the Naval Academy doing football and all the American things.
yay.
So that was good fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I didn't do much, just laid around pretty much,
Yeah.
doing odds and ends. Yeah. We're on our fifth episode now, which is kind of mind blowing in itself because I don't know. I mean, I knew we're going to do well, but we keep rolling with it and I love it. I look forward to this every week that when it's time. So we've had some pretty amazing guests so far. Come on.
Yes. Big shout out to Emily for last week's or 2 weeks ago episode on mental health. That was fantastic.
Which was huge, huge for me personally. I think that's been one of my favorites so far.
Yeah, doing this is kind of like therapy every week.
It is. I tell
Good.
you, it helps me a lot. It
It's good.
does. Um,
Helps get the demons out. And then we
it
had
does.
so yeah, we'll definitely do more on mental health because that's
Hmm.
always a topic. And as we discussed, not many agencies are very good at it. Not sure that our country's that good at it as a whole. So we just need to help each other. And then we had Michael, who we
Indeed.
could probably get him back on to talk about some too, as he told us that he used substances for a while.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, and was ashamed of it, which I thought was kind of like, well, we've all been there, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure a big majority of us have come home to a stiff drink no matter what freaking time of day it was. So,
Hmm.
um, I know I have, but yeah. And then talking about with him, with the Denver 911 being a big center and having um such a streamlined way of operating versus where he
Yes.
works now, which is actually kind of like where we came from, where you
Hmm.
mostly yell at each other across the room. And I think my favorite line was when he said that sometimes you'll have a caller that's talking batshit crazy on 911, and then somebody wants to run a number. Yeah. I
Yeah.
should have asked him. I didn't because he has dispatched fire and EMS as well. Like, did he have a preference? We'll ask him that next time. Because we all know, well, we don't all know, and everybody that works with us knows that I have a preference. And it's not for the radio where
Yes.
they want to run random numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that drives me a little batty too. So,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have a batshit 911 caller on, like that's that makes it all the more
Well,
interesting.
I actually am. I have tried to recently reach out to the lovely folks at the Denver center there that where Mr. Michael worked to see if we could hopefully have one or two of those folks come on and just lay out how, what their take is on how well it works or if it doesn't work, like if it's different in their eyes as opposed to like someone like you or I who are used to smaller
Right.
Tom
Right.
centers, and I still can't imagine 20 to 30 call takers. I've been thinking about that a lot. That's one of the main reasons why I reached out to them to say, hey, can we want to have you on the show? Like, and it can be brief, folks. We know everybody's busy, but we'd love getting information out and different things um, to help other agencies as well. And it's just awesome. So we're still waiting. They said the response back is that they will check. So I will be trying to stay on top of that and hopefully we can get an answer if they can join us or not.
Cool. That would be fun because
Yeah.
we were going to talk about this week was what happens to calls once they've been taken, right?
Hmm.
And how they're, we talked about the call processing and, how they have 20 to 30 call takers, and in some centers there's one or two. In some centers there's more, the mid-sized center where you're probably answering calls, or you may be primarily dispatching, but if 911 gets busy, you're answering the phone too. And
Hmm.
but in any of those, call routing is still going to be basically the same, where we use something called CAD for short, but it's computer aided dispatching, and calls will get prioritized, and that's based on every agency and how they deem calls, what the priority level should be. Law enforcement has their own, fire EMS, they have their own, like obviously, structure fire on the fire side would be an immediate urgent priority. Let's say a violent assault or shooting, something like that, is priority on the law enforcement side. EMS has a cardiac arrest or an unconscious would be a higher priority than, say,
Hmm.
toe pain, right? And people do call for toe pain. They stump,
They
they
do.
toe, stumped it. I don't know what the hell kind of tree that was, but it stumped, they toe. I think when people are calling 911, of course, they think that whatever is happening to them right then is immediately emergent, right? Like this is the worst thing ever. But it's probably not. Sometimes it is.
Probably not. Yeah.
Not most of the time. They're usually very anxious and trying to get us to move it along, but we can only do what
Yep.
we can do. And sometimes I don't
Especially
remember.
with some of these aided systems too that have questions built in that we have to ask in order to move forward.
Right,
um, that's behind the scene that nobody realizes, like it makes it tough sometimes.
right. There are software programs that have a set of questions that a call taker must ask, and you could be held liable in court if you don't. So when jurisdictions use those systems, people are held to it, and you have to answer those questions. And sometimes it's very hard for people to understand that. It's also hard for people to understand that sometimes there aren't enough resources to send you someone right away. Like your call may sit in queue, as we call it, or penned until there's an available unit. And I know that's scary, but it's just the
Right.
way the way it is. Public safety is not an unlimited resource.
They just don't get it.
No, people are in
That
that
works.
heightened state and they want instant gratification and we can't always provide that. Um,
No.
so and that also weighs on, a telecommunicator's mental health. That's another issue that
Mm-hmm.
is not really talked about because sometimes we realize that you may have somebody who is in cardiac arrest or is unconscious, but if all of my ambulances are currently transporting other people to the hospital, like they can't ditch them on the side of the road. And,
Right.
so, of course, we try to get somebody there that can be of use, but unfortunately, law enforcement calls and, you know, pend a lot of the time if you have a lot of priority calls going on.
And if we have to call other jurisdictions and hope to borrow, a medic unit or whatnot, that's not always the fastest. I mean, it
Right.
probably is the next best fastest thing, but it's not always available
Right.
either.
Right.
So,
Because, you can bet that usually if you're getting your ass handed to you, so is the jurisdiction next door, right? Like
jurisdiction next
it
to,
never
yeah,
fails. Never fails. It's not like very
yes,
rarely is somebody else just sitting around like, oh yeah, we can come help because we got nothing else to do.
right,
Usually if it's busy, it's busy.
yeah.
If it's not, it's not. And I think that is a great segue into our talking about our guest this week and the 911 Saves Act because we do what we can do. And even though we do it different all over the country, we are doing it to protect the citizens and for public safety.
I'm enjoying the guests that we've had thus far. Put some putting some things into different perspective for me.
Yeah. And so this week we're going
Um,
to have Lori on to talk about the 911
yes,
Save Act, which is actually trying to have public safety telecommunicators redesignated as first responders, away from their clerical administrative current designation federally.
and
And
I will tell you the one thing that gets me about this whole topic in general is that I had an officer. She was new, and when she was brought in to do her little
a law enforcement officer.
observation, yes, law enforcement officer was had to come in and do her little observation and dispatch for 12 hours and just said, "Oh, I couldn't do it. Just pushing the papers, push papers. That's all it is paper pushing." Well, bitch, yes, we do push a lot of papers. Most of them your papers, your warrants, your whatever the fuck else you need. So you go ahead and take my headset here and let's see how good you are at pushing these papers, because I don't think so.
Right.
And
Right. Because,
then that kind of changed her tune pretty quick.
yeah, because I mean, one of the other things and it's not the same, I'm sure, in every jurisdiction. We should have asked, that's another question we should ask Michael about, like, out at Denver 911, like who handles their warrants, their like, is that a 24-hour thing? Do they have people there NCIC. I mean, each state has their own criminal information network or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
But, in our center, that's something that we do. We do have people designated for it during the day, but after hours, that's something that we
Right.
handle.
I've
And
always said it needed to be way longer than
right.
like,
And so,
9 to 5. Like, no.
so in the middle of talking to a batshit 911 caller, you may get a hit or a notification from another jurisdiction that they have somebody in custody who you want on a warrant. And there's a lot of paper, not so much paperwork anymore, but back and forth computer stuff that has to go on to get that
Mm-hmm.
done. And there's a time limit depending on what the other agency asks for. So you may only have 15 minutes to figure that out while you're on the phone with your batshit 911 caller. So yeah, so I don't think that's a clerical job. Plus, as Michael mentioned, we're going to work in a blizzard, in a whatever. I've heard of a few localities that do, since COVID, did like at home dispatching, but they didn't have access to everything, NCIC for one. I
Yeah.
don't know if there are any other places that do that, but we didn't sit at home 2020. Like you still work a
No, we
12-hour
did not.
shift. So
We still did the 12-hour shifts, 18-hour shift. We worked, we had the Rona, our damn self up in there. Like, I mean, it just.
right.
So tonight's guest will be talking with Lori, and she is going to dive into that for us. So we welcome you, Lori, to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
And why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself first?
Well, I've been working at the agency we all worked at for almost 19 and a half years.
Whew.
I can retire anytime I want to. I'm just not quite ready yet. Before that, I was a Domino's manager, and before that, I taught marching band.
And you play an instrument?
I do. I play saxophone and oboe.
There you go.
Saxophone is my main instrument. I know you like that one.
I do.
Cool.
Well, we welcome you. And tonight's topic, what are you going to be talking about to
I'm
our
going to be talking about the 911 CARES Act, which is in front of Congress right now. It was defeated a few years back because they attached it to another bill. And, God forbid that they should get along up there and pass something.
right?
But it's been reintroduced by Representative Norma Torres out of California and Brian Fitzpatrick out of Pennsylvania. They are in opposite political parties, so I think that's a good start. Norma used to be a 911 dispatcher, so she completely understands how important it is to us. It's right now, I can never remember this acronym. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is with OMB, which is Office of Management, federal government. Yes, we're near DC, everybody. They have us classified, 911 dispatchers and call takers are classified as secretaries.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. We're not secretaries any more than an iron worker is. Very few secretaries are going to give 911, are going to give CPR instructions or instructions how to deliver a baby or talk somebody off a ledge or talk to a mother who just found her son hanging and so on and so on. And I know we've all taken those calls.
Yes.
But right now we're considered secretaries. And what that means is that we don't get the mental health help that we should, which we all know. If this thing passes, I got a little thing here. It would develop best practices to identify, prevent, and treat PTSD, develop resources to help mental health professionals better understand these personnel. And I think you talked about that, where sometimes our stories traumatize the therapists or the doctors because they just don't understand what we do. And then it would establish grants for health and wellness programs. And in some cases, like in our state, if we were considered protective employees, protective services, we might get a little extra money in retirement. It's
Which
I
would
mean,
be
it's not a
nice.
lot, but yes, it would be nice. So the problem is that everybody thinks, and you guys know this, everybody thinks when we answer the phone, we hang up the phone, we run out the door, we jump in the cruiser, we jump on the ambulance, we jump on the fire truck, and we go put the fire out or do the CPR or arrest the bad guy. And in actuality, we're yelling at the people on the radio who are supposed to be doing that to answer us or go faster or, whatever. But there's very little education out there in the public about what we do. And that's probably the fault of all PSAPs, because nobody ever thinks about what we do. They just know we're there if they need us.
Right. Now, we do put out fires if we're cooking outside, right? Remember?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But first we spray the part that's not on fire. Remember?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we had a
and leave the rookies
there
on the inside dispatching fire who have never dispatched fire.
We had a little fire outside the old building, and a certain deputy came out and got his fire extinguisher and sprayed everything except what was on fire.
It was,
and that's why he's a deputy and not a fireman.
Not anymore, but yeah.
So I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in there. But
hey, but technically a firefighter did put it out because Mike put it out.
Yes,
remember?
He did. He sure did.
Because he knew what to do.
He sprayed the part that was on fire.
Put the fire out. I mean,
it was funny.
Oh God.
The nice thing about this, and I know we're all kind of stretched thin in the wallet because of inflation, but there's no cost to the taxpayers for this. None. It's a few strokes of I was going to say the pen, but I guess a few strokes on the keyboard. And it changes our category to protective services rather than secretaries. And we need everybody. We need everybody to contact their senators and their representatives and say, hey, push this through. Especially for those of us that are going to retire soon,
Absolutely.
Right.
But, people just don't know what we do. And that's I believe, the biggest holdup. One of the women that co-sponsored this was a former 911 dispatcher. So she understands completely what we go through, the trauma we go through, you get that horrible call and you never really know what the outcome is. And we all have a little PTSD, if not a lot of PTSD, depending on how long we've been in our agency. Right. And I mean, you can see it. I can see it in myself. If the phone's ringing, I start twitching. And, I think, Anna, you said something about you have to answer the phone no matter where you are. It's the same thing. Pick the phone up,
Drives me crazy.
Yes, but that's what we need is we need support from the general public as well as all of the dispatchers across the nation. And I think one thing I read said there's 9,000 to 10,000 dispatchers, call takers. But if we could just everybody would reach out to somebody and get them to reach out to their representatives in Congress, both Senate and House, then maybe they would understand how important this is to not only us as individuals, but to the 911 system, period.
Right.
Because and you've both worked there, when we're sitting there with 3 or 4 people and it hits the fan.
Yep.
You don't have a choice. You've got to pick that phone up. You can't take a moment and compose yourself. And it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And Casey, we ran with 4 for a long time.
Oh, I remember
Yes, we
running
did.
for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, isn't it sad though that even like the lawmakers don't know what we do, you
Yes.
know?
And they don't make an effort to find out either.
Right, right. Like it's called public safety.
Right.
I mean,
Public.
aren't
Yes.
you supposed to be serving the public?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I mean, hey,
And
we are,
how
but
many
I don't know if
times
you are. Like,
yeah, that's for sure. How many times have we been sitting in that room, whether it's the old building or the new building, and had a group come through, whether it's firefighters or new cops doing a ride along, or you know, somebody from another department, maybe, a detective comes in and they stand there for a minute and they go, man, I couldn't do this.
yeah.
You know,
or how do you look at all those screens?
right.
Yeah.
With my 6 eyeballs, that's how.
Right.
That's right.
When you leave, we put on a hat that has extra eyeballs so we can
Right.
see.
And
Yeah.
our crystal balls. Don't
Right.
forget
Don't forget
about
the crystal
those.
ball. Yeah, that's
Right.
not on the budget for next year though, so we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Make sure your ESPN is turned on. For sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I mean. A big part of it is that nobody knows what we do. How many people yell at you and say, "Stop asking questions and get here"? Well, I'm not
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
You know.
And I
mean,
tell
I
you,
mean,
that is 98% of the calls that come
Mhm.
through. That is what is said.
Mhm.
yes, yes, especially now,
Yeah.
with the EMD, EFT, and trying to explain that I'm not the one that's coming. They're coming from company 3 or whatever, and they just don't understand. And I guess maybe back in the day, that's how they did it. I don't know. I'm not from down here, so I don't know. I
Well, yeah,
lived in the
like
big.
in the
I lived in the big city. Remember?
But how
like in
many
the 18
people that are
freaking
100 years
hundreds.
old are calling? Or,
Right.
a lot of, a lot of these people who are calling are in our age range. Like, they're not from the time before cars. So, they,
Driving
like,
their Model T.
right. I mean, we're not like, the bucket brigade.
Right.
I,
Dropping bags of flowers so the volunteers can follow. Yeah.
right,
But
right. Pulling the hose cart with the freaking
right.
horse. Like, no,
Yes. Yeah. But
right.
they watch TV
Yeah.
and like there's a certain show that's named after where we work that they only show one dispatcher for all of LA County.
Right.
Like, yeah, one
Right.
dispatcher and one cop and one
Right.
firehouse.
Right.
Yeah.
When in actuality they have 60 people on the floor at a time.
Right.
60, which is 3 or
Right.
4 or 5 times what we have, probably, depending on
Well,
when
if
it
they
is.
have 20 call takers in Denver, I mean,
Yeah.
they have what the probably 30 to 35 people on the floor at any given time. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, how,
Yeah.
LA's bigger than that. So,
Yeah, considerably.
Yeah.
right. So,
But
yes.
we need to educate the public
Mhm.
of what we do, and the only way to do that is to get our, as I call them, powers that be, to start talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or for people to listen to our podcast.
That's even
Yeah.
better.
I mean,
That's even better. Yes.
duh.
Yeah.
I mean, the small bump in retirement pay isn't important. What's important is, in about a year and a half when I'm 95 and I'm
Shit.
and I'm sitting there in the nursing home twitching because the phone's ringing,
Right.
they can take me somewhere, and well, they probably do that anyway, but take me somewhere I can get some help and not traumatize the poor therapist when I say, well, mom walked in and there was blood everywhere, and we've all taken those calls, and we just
Yeah.
take it, hang up, go to the next one, which is somebody calling because their water is out, and then
They didn't pay the bill.
right, or their car got towed because I pay
I
my
was just
bill.
gonna say, or their car got stolen.
Right, stolen. You're right. Really? Where's the
No.
last place you saw it? Oh, what is it? Yeah, it was repossessed. Do you need the number? No, I got
Right.
it. Never mind. Click. You know.
God, that
These
was
little-
always the best to tell people that. Like, how
I know
dumb
it
are
was.
you people?
Every
Like, give me
Sunday
a
morning. That
break.
was so much fun. Yeah.
I just paid the bill, bitch. No, you didn't.
No.
Right? 3 months ago.
That thing
Right.
been past due for
Relative.
5 months. What are you
Right.
talking about?
Oh
Right.
my God.
That's great.
But it's, it's up
Well,
to
I
us
think
to get the
even
word out.
this in general, for the mental health part of it, that's huge too. I mean,
is.
obviously the money part, but the mental health people just have no clue.
No, none. And I've been looking for somebody to talk to, and I can't find anybody that understands what 911 is. Oh, you answer the phone all day.
Yep.
Yeah, but a little bit more than that. If somebody calls for an emergency evacuation or a mayday or shots fired or, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're the ones that are sitting there on pins and needles, not the firefighters or the deputies, because they're doing something. We're just imagining the worst.
Yep.
Right.
And Casey, you and I have worked through horrible thing, and we've had 3 deputies die since I've been there, and I worked all 3 of them. It's me, I guess. I don't know. No, you were there for 2 of them, weren't you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just it's funny because you see us depicted on TV everywhere, but it's never even close to what we actually do.
Not even close. No.
Mm-mm.
I think, was it the one that was on Oxygen or whatever, that was the center down in South Carolina?
Oh, I vaguely remember that.
It might have even been Richland, which is the same one that was on Live PD. That was the most realistic one. But you also know that because it was actually in the center, but it's also heavily edited. And I'm sorry, like, you would have to put an actual 911 center. That would have to be on like HBO or something. We could not be on a regular network channel if we weren't edited, for sure. But that doesn't help depict what's actually happening. And then of course I'm sure the film crews are a lot like Live PD or OPD or whatever, what's On Patrol Live now, that they're only there on certain times. They're not there 24/7.
Yeah, and there would be so much that would have to be, like you said, edited in the call center because of all the information that we have our hands on.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. All of that. And then, you can't go 5 minutes without somebody dropping an F-bomb.
5
Oh,
minutes.
come on, man.
I know I can't go like 30 seconds, but
I was gonna say 5 minutes.
There's some people.
Yeah.
There's some people that can go a little longer.
Not me.
But like what Michael said last week, you get that batshit crazy 911 caller. And then you got some dumb deputy who want to run a number.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
No, dog. Now's not the time.
Yeah, stand by.
Right.
Yeah.
You tell them to stand by and they still keep on running.
We still
Their
talk.
chops.
That's the best thing. That's the best one. Stand by. 547.
What did I just say?
Were you clearly were not listening.
But even if they showed us, like you said, they'd have to be in there because nobody in the world has any idea. I think they really think we just sit there and answer the phone and then we're watching TV and eating bonbons the rest of the time.
Right.
Not dealing with the frequent callers or the people calling in telling us that their power's out, their water's out, their car was stolen, or catch up on their burger, things like that.
Right.
The last one of those I took was they didn't get enough McNuggets, so they blocked the entire line.
Oh my God. One of my favorites. How are we segueing into fast food calls? But anyway, one of my favorites was a lady who was driving her husband's pickup truck, and she thought that she was stuck in the drive-through. Like she was afraid to turn it because she was afraid that she would hit the wall or the building or the something. And I'm like, I don't even know. And she called 911. I'm like, I drop it, as a whatever,
Right.
and I'm like typing the notes, and luckily, some deputy is reading, and he's like, I'm gonna go check this out. And I'm like, okay. And then, 5 minutes later, he's like, I drove the truck through the drive-through. It's fine.
Wow.
Like,
Calls like that, they don't think about, but we get that between the gunshots and the
right.
fires and the this and the that.
The infant CPR, the
Yep.
whatever. And,
Mhm.
meanwhile, you're stuck in the drive-through because you can't drive a truck.
Right.
And
then you don't get enough McNuggets, and what am I going
right.
to do?
Then you
No.
got everybody stuck in the drive-through.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
everybody's calling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we get to deal with crazy people all the
Or,
way to whatever.
yeah, you get drunk and fall asleep in the drive-through line, and your car rolls
There you go.
forward, and it's
Or you fall asleep at the traffic light, which is my new favorite one.
oh yeah, that's always a good one.
I think he's dead. So we send everybody.
Right.
Yeah. And we
Right.
think, yeah, we got a
Yep.
DRT right there. And no, they woke
Right.
up and I go, sorry, taking a little nap. And
Right. No, I'm just sleeping.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Or
people
you got
don't think of that.
old Charles. He ain't got no driver's license, and he's riding around town. He's been drinking.
Charles wouldn't do that.
His
And
tags are expired.
right. Right. And then how do you know that? Well,
Right.
I
And
mean,
where's he going? Well, I don't know. He's just driving around.
I
Bitch,
I
get off my
was his
phone.
girlfriend.
And he left me for the skank.
Right. And he driving around with some other female in the car. Oh, okay. Now we know what's happening.
Now we know what's going on.
And meanwhile, your partner's saying, the building's collapsing. I need you on the channel. You're like, hold on a minute. I'm doing a Maury Povich show here.
Hold on.
You're
Hold
right.
on. Oh.
And I'm pretty sure no secretary has this much fun or does any of this stuff.
I don't think secretaries drop the F-bomb like we do.
Nah, probably not as
I
much.
don't know. There probably are somewhere.
There probably are with
but-
job security, but
yeah, well, and that's the other thing that, I don't know if what the bill, means for that. But I mean, when you talk about job security, some of us, depending on who your employer is, you may work at the will of.
mm-hmm.
And so, they don't like something you say, and you're trying to find another job.
Right. Well,
So,
I think we're okay because ours got reelected. But you're right, though, because you work at an at-will state and
right.
you part your hair the wrong way one day. And
Right. And if the federal bill would get passed, I think that would go a long way to getting more states on board, because right now there's only 7 states that have adopted public safety telecommunicators, as they call them, as first responders.
mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
and
Virginia
and
has a bill, and
yes.
it passed the first part, and then it's just sort of disappeared.
Right. It's just stalled out.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the 911 Saves Act went through, that would probably help to.
I wonder if part of the problem is our title with that, telecommunicators. It does sound like we sit on the phone all day.
Well, it
Which
does,
we
and there's
but it's so much more than that.
right.
I think dispatchers and call takers, is a better description of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think there's so much bleed over now between centers that have people that are dual trained, or trained on all things, that
Right.
they're kind of going away from that. But it's really funny because telecommunications, like as a degree, is not even close to the same thing.
Right.
Right.
Not even in the same building.
So all these government folks and senators, congressmen, whatever, listen up, y'all. Go to your jurisdictions that you're near and go sit in that communication center and just check it out. Even if you would not even need an hour, 2 hours. I mean, like 5-10 minutes max, and you would already know.
Yeah. All you need is one call.
I mean, seriously.
But if you could walk in there on a day when patrols lit up and fires lit up, if they could see that and see everything that we do, it'd probably scare them, though.
Yeah.
Might.
It might.
But I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something needs to be done for sure.
Something does, because I know there's many people out there that have been at their centers for 30 plus years, and they're certainly not secretaries. They've probably seen stuff that we've never seen or heard of, which is hard to believe. Because, I mean, in our little county, in Casey and I've been through 3 plane crashes and 3 deputies dying.
Yeah.
And
So my husband came from a city near the big city, the capital city. He's been down in our area now for a little over a year or something like that. And he's like, way crazier shit happens here than it did up north.
Yeah, I've got a friend that worked, and so do you, Casey, that worked in the big jurisdiction up north, and who also worked, she was my trainer, Casey's trainer too. And she said, those people down there are much crazier than we've got up here. Much crazier.
Yeah. I mean, what is going on?
I think we import them. I really do.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, they all think they want to move out to the country.
Right.
And
So
then
people start shooting.
Don't you be coming out in my country.
Bear wanders out into their yard, or
or a fox or a yeti.
Yeah. Yeah.
I took a call for a yeti once, and for a koala bear.
Oh my God!
Those
Yes, I
koalas,
remember.
man. They get around.
remember the koala bear.
Yes. It was a cat, koala bear cat.
And I took a call once for a guy who wanted an odor investigation, and he was absolutely adamant that it was like a gas odor. So, man, it's like after probably around midnight or maybe after. And this is when we still had volunteers.
Whoa.
That was a day or two ago.
Yeah.
Right. And in one of the busier areas. And I'm like, you're going to have me wake these people up and go out to your house to say they smell a skunk? Because I know that that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and he is getting mad at me. And I'm like, okay. So I dispatched them out there. They came back. Yeah, we're riding around. Strong smell of skunk in the area. Well, they're going to clear up, because their job was done. He flags them down.
Oh, no.
Makes them get out the gas meter.
The meter?
And walk around. Yeah.
Wow.
Because he was convinced that it was not a skunk.
Needed a crazy detector for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I can't with you. Like,
Mhm.
you know?
Again, just an ordinary secretary job.
That's right.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
All secretaries do this, I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Just your normal 9 to 5.
Yeah. And then, right. And talk about that too. The shift work. And, like Michael was talking about, I mean, where he is now, they work like this craziness where they work like 3 day shifts and then 3 night shifts. And then
In
I
a
think they're
row,
off for a week. But really?
three
And
day
then,
shifts, then followed by 3 night shifts on the same week.
yes,
Oh,
right.
no,
Mm-mm.
no.
And then there's people that, every 2 weeks or month to month alternate days and nights.
No way.
I mean,
It's hard enough doing 12s.
right. Right. I mean, 12s and, so that means on your long week, you're working 48 hours. If you don't get called in or you didn't sign up for overtime, because you got to do that because it's mandatory in a
Mm.
lot of places. And then if you have on call, I get that there are secretaries that work long hours, but not like,
Probably 9 or 10 hours, not 12.
well, right. And not
12 to
every
18.
day 12. And then the
Right.
times, right, when it snows or something happens and you're stuck there for 18 or 24.
Right. Or you hear the
And
announcement that such and such county offices are closed, or 2 hours late, liberal leave policy in effect. And I always, in my head, I always hear, except you have to
Right.
be there.
And then you get the text to your phone that says, and make sure you leave in plenty of time to get here because the roads are bad.
Right.
oh,
No shit,
and
Sherlock.
they get lunch breaks. What? And they get to actually go piss when they have to piss.
I really think that's why we have liners in our trash cans.
I
Well,
mean,
those trash cans have been, I know, thrown up in quite a bit when
Oh,
people were
yeah.
sick and you had to
yes,
come to work.
Right.
Or
guilty
you
of
had
that.
morning sickness or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
And
So,
the thing that always got me, I thought it was really fun when I first started back in but the dinosaurs. I thought it was a lot of fun, everything that's going on in the county, and oh, this is great. And then I think the first snow, I'm like, what is this? No, no, we're not. No, no. The bloom was off the rose after that. And
Mm-hmm.
now I just, whenever
mhm.
it's going to snow, I pray for it to be on our long weekend that I don't have to deal with it. Sorry, other day shift.
Right.
But,
Sorry,
I've been there
luck.
long enough. I don't want to deal with
No, she's not.
Right.
it. Hey, don't tell my secrets.
Mm,
It's just,
I don't have to worry about that anymore.
yeah.
I can
I'm not even
actually
talking to
work
you.
from home.
I'm talking to Anna.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
Right.
yeah,
Anna,
because,
who I believe, I think it might have been last year, but I had signed up to work like I think a half a day shift. And it started snowing. I was in my little blue car, which has gotten me
Mhm.
to and from work many a day and many a snowstorm. But now I live out closer to the mountain.
Right.
And I knew I needed new tires, but I was trying to, eke it
Yep.
out.
hmm
But
All
it
been
started
there.
snowing. I think at like noon. And I was like, oh no, this girl is not gonna get stuck here. I'm out. I'm done. 1 o'clock is my cutoff. I'm gone. So don't I hopped in my car. By the time I got home, my husband was like, how did you even get here? Because there was so much ice caked up and the snow like coming into my driveway. Like I basically just slid down my driveway because the snow
Well,
was so
you had
deep.
racing slicks, so you were
And I
good.
had racing slicks on, and there was
Yeah.
so much ice and snow jammed up around my tires that like I had to wait 3 days for the car to thaw out so I could drive it again.
You're like,
I
not
was like,
tonight, bitches, not tonight.
I
When
will
I
be
used
damned.
when I used
And
to
then,
live up in that big area up north, and I could see Route 1 from my place, and I would wonder, when we had a big snow, why are these people on the road? Because there'd always be a few cars. Now I know they're probably dispatchers trying to go to work,
there you
or
go,
or
right?
cops, firefighters.
Right,
And I'm
right.
sure that the dispatchers were cussing the whole way over there.
Yeah,
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 Yeah. Well, they
no
definitely weren't
secretaries are doing that.
secretaries. No.
No,
right,
no.
right. And yeah, and the eating thing, one of my kids asked me the other day, he was like, I think I was like packing lunch or something to take with me. And he's like, where do you eat when you're at work, mommy? Oh, at my console.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he said something about, well, do you guys cook? Oh, that's how we got into the conversation, because we were at the grocery store and the fire truck pulled up. And I was like, oh, they're probably getting stuff for dinner. And he's like, well, do y'all cook hot food? Or do they bring
No.
you hot food? Or I'm like, honey. And he's like, well, and where do you eat? Do you get to eat in the kitchen? Because of course, he's been to the firehouse where they have, that big table with the, you know, Maltese cross in the middle and the logo and the whatever, and it's all lacquered up, and it's, 25 people can sit around the table. I'm like, no, dude, it's not like that. And we rarely ever get our food hot. So,
Well, we don't have any way. Well, now we don't have any way to make it hot, because if this is hot, that's cold. Because we don't
right,
have a
Yeah.
stove anymore, and the only time you get pulled into the kitchen is when you're in trouble.
right.
Oh, God.
Am I wrong?
You are so not wrong.
you know,
I've been in
I'm
that
not going in
fucking
there.
kitchen a lot.
I always say, "What did I do?"
Right. What have I done now? Oh my God. Oh Lord. That
Yeah,
is too funny.
just your average
Well,
secretary job. You know,
I mean.
mhm.
Well, this has been a really great topic. Um, which I didn't know much about really before we got started. I mean, I knew before I left, I vaguely remember that it was a thing that was, well, it was supposed to be a thing, but then it got on the back burner.
hmm
Um, so I really hope whoever's listening or whatnot, I hope this gets pushed through for all the folks that are still doing
Yes.
this,
You
because
can
it's
Google who your senators and representatives are and how to contact them. Call them, email them, write them letters, whatever it is.
do all
it's
three.
very yeah, it's very deserving for these men and women that are still doing this job. And I mean, just nobody has any idea of what we've gone through or what you're going through still being in it. So this would be awesome, totally amazing if this were passed for everybody.
Would be nice for all of
Indeed,
us.
indeed. Well, we do appreciate you joining us tonight.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Do you have any shout outs before we go?
Yeah, to my trainer, Jenny.
There you go. Hi,
You know
Jenny.
her.
Shout out. Whoop, whoop.
A big thank you to Lori for coming on tonight and talking with us about the 911 Saves Act. So if you are interested in helping get this bill passed, write your politicians, call them, whatever it is, so we can get 911 public safety telecommunicators reclassified as first responders and not just secretaries. And Casey,
Yes, come on, guys.
you have got a shout out or two for the week.
Yeah,
Shout out to the
I
politicians who are trying to get this passed. And
yes. And want to also shout out to our girl Danielle. She is in need of a shout out, she said. So we are shouting out to her, and girl, keep
hang in
pushing
there,
through.
girl. Yep, just
You've
hang in
got
there.
this. We're
Right.
with you all the way. Also, shout out to the veterans. We just had Veterans Day this past weekend. Appreciate everything you guys do, whether you're still in it or if you're retired from it. It's awesome. We appreciate it very, very much.
Yep. Love my veterans.
Yes, indeed. Now, with all that said, next week's Thanksgiving, guys, already. We're
Yeah,
heading
shout
into
out.
Thanksgiving. I cannot believe this fucking year has gone by so fast.
Doesn't
So
it seem
we
like
will
every
still
year
be
though?
joining you guys. Yeah, it does.
Every year,
But
like,
lucky for y'all, we are still going to be here um, next Thursday for Thanksgiving. But it's going to be a little bit more fun, I think. We're going to go with some funny stories from our shift back in the day, things that have happened or didn't happen. Um, and maybe some not so good calls that you may recall that kind of made things shitty for you on your Thanksgiving. Um, there's got to be something, guys, out there. Like, for God's sakes, we're public safety dispatchers. There are stories out there. And don't tell me you don't have none, because I will say bullshit to that. We
well, I'm
want to
gonna
hear
work
them.
on Thanksgiving, so I might have one after Thanksgiving. I can't think of any
Yes.
like that come to my mind immediately from the past, but I am working this Thanksgiving, so I will I'll be eating at the same table everybody else is, so
Yeah, we want to know, do you we want to hear from y'all seriously. Like, how does your center accommodate Thanksgiving for you? Like, do they prepare a Thanksgiving wow, I can't even fucking talk, dinner for you guys? Do you get to leave early, shorter shifts? Do you get a little bonus? And how many of you have actually worked? How many Thanksgivings have you worked since you've been in the dispatching public safety career? I worked every single one of them. So for 16 years, there's that.
I
Um,
honestly, God, I honestly don't remember, but
yep, every
I
single
used to work
one.
a lot of them when I was full time because I don't like the drama of planning Thanksgiving family dinner.
Hmm.
So if I work, then I don't have to worry about it. So, and it was always good money, but now I got kids and no, 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 no. So
Yes. Well, I know damn well that ain't nobody dispatching or public safety that are shy as fuck. So y'all need to just get you a little pen and or
again,
your
ain't nobody writing
computer
anymore, girl. They gonna get
and
on the
start
keyboard, clickety clack,
keyboard,
clack, clack,
and
clack, and
we
type
want to
us
hear
out
this.
something.
We want to hear these. That's what we want to hear. Into the old podcast 911 delta at yahoo.com. We want to see it, guys. Come on. Got to get this podcast rolling and out there. It's going to be so much fun. The further we reach out, I mean, just can you imagine the stories and shit? It's just going to be fun. So we would love to hear from you guys on that. Make sure you're still listening on all platforms. Listen, follow, rate, share on all the platforms.
Yeah, and rate and review if you can, because that does help other people when they're searching. So it helps us, it helps other people. And if you're in this public safety game, you like helping people, even though you don't like people, because that's why you got into it. I know you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, yes, yes. And I mean, who could not like us? Come
That's
on.
right.
So
Right.
anything, any stories, any of your shutouts, we're getting some, but not as much as like we need to. And this is for you
Yeah, because
guys.
we don't want to tell our stories all the
This
time.
is
No, we want to hear your stories.
we hope that you guys enjoyed tonight's show. Oh, and we're going to thank all the dispatchers and public safety folks out there. Please, please stay safe.
So happy
If you're
Thanksgiving.
lucky. Gobble, gobble. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.